Hello and welcome to Monocle on Culture. I'm Robert Bound. On today's show, we are going on a whirlwind world tour and spotlighting three exciting centres of art. We'll start here in London with a new exhibition from that dapper duo, Gilbert and George. Then we'll head down under to find out about the art centres producing exquisite Aboriginal art. And finally, we'll hear from a star of the Romanian art scene who returned to Bucharest this year for a landmark exhibition. So do stay tuned. That's all coming up right here on Monocle on Culture. It's been 2 years since the legendary British artists Gilbert and George opened their eponymous centre in East London. The current exhibition, Death, Hope, Life, Fear, spans the years 1984 to 1998 and features 18 works of art that question the morals of modern society. Monocle's Tom Webb sat down with the duo, well turned out and quick to laugh as always. Here they are, reflecting on how society has changed during their lifetimes.
We are able to say whatever, we are free to speak nowadays, no?
We're war babies and we can remember an entirely different world, and we think that everything in the world is more kinder, more generous, more elaborate than it ever was. There are still enormous difficulties, of course, but the progress is astonishing. The world now is an entirely different one from when we were born in the 40s.
All the sexuality used to be all forbidden. We are all free in some funny ways compared to then.
We're all decriminalised even if we don't want to be. But we want to be.
We do. Speaking of which, we're surrounded by work from the 80s and 90s in which you appear naked for the first time. How did that happen? What was the transition there?
After all, it's just a different suit, not it?
I would say so. Looking at it,
just extended our visual vocabulary, you could say, in academic terms.
The artist had to be visible in total how it is. Not, I really believe that.
Our art has always had a degree of vulnerability, and I think that extended it to a greater degree.
And can you explain the colours as well? Because the reds, the yellows, the greens, so vibrant, so vivid. What was the choice there?
When we were baby artists, we started to do what we call photo pieces. And they were all black and white because photo paper is black and white. And then one day we spilt a bottle of red ink in the studio, and we thought we'd just push the red all over, and that was discovering red. And then we went on from that to discover all the colours.
Discovered yellow, green and blue, and after then we discovered everything, and we were able to create for ourselves this new way of making art.
And we're sitting in the middle of the exhibition, and it's hope, life, death, fear. These four concepts, what's your relationship with them?
It was in some funny way, it was David O'Billiard who was the genius who getting all the models for us. Now, he went day and night to all the clubs to find this model for us, and he died of AIDS. So that's Hope, Life, Fear became very visible for us.
It is, apart from everything else, it's just a little bit of a homage to the late David O'Billiard.
And the models that you mentioned, the work looks like it was made yesterday. How were you able to get these images?
I mean, through David O'Billiard. No?
What was the name of the club you used to go to near King's Cross?
The Blitz.
The Blitz, amongst other ones, yes.
And every other one. Every hour he was coming with a new model. It's fantastic. It was just
He had the ability to ask just the person who was thrilled to be in a movie or to be photographed. Yeah. He never asked someone who turned it down. He knew exactly which people want to be. And when we finished taking the images of each person, we always said, was it all right? Was it not too difficult or anything? And almost everyone said, no, I enjoyed it. And when we said, why would you enjoy it? They nearly all replied, the attention, which is very sweet and very sad and very beautiful. The attention.
Hollywood, here we come.
Now, why would that be sad?
It's sad because maybe they've never had any other attention that week or that month or that year or maybe their whole life.
Now, some of the work depicts you falling as well from this exhibition. What was the thinking behind that?
Falling?
Falling, as if you're falling from the sky.
I think in general, as it's death, hope, life, fear, we are all either falling into this world or being taken out of it. The tradition, the Bible says we go up somewhere else, or down somewhere else. I think it's on that theme, that common theme of where are we all going?
Falling down the stairs or not?
Where are we going to end up?
Now, during the same period, the 80s and the 90s, you also visited China and Moscow. There's a new book about your time there. Have you had a chance to read it?
We did read it, yes.
We did read it. It was done by our friend James Birch, who was able to go to Russia and persuade them to do a show. And after that, he actually managed to go to Beijing and Shanghai, where we met our dear friend Yui Gang, who is here, and he has been working for us for the last 30 years.
Are these countries that you would like to visit and exhibit in again?
Yes, well, I would like a lot of... We never managed to go to Africa yet.
I think going to Russia was an extraordinary, because it made us feel what spoilt brats we are. To visit a country like Russia, where you can see that every single detail of life is complicated in a way that it shouldn't be. Yeah.
It was quite a dark. Russia was quite dark. Not China. China was much more successful. All the young people and everybody was working to make a better life for themselves. And even the shows were more successful, I would say, in China. Yes, all the young people. There are thousands of young people there. And yes.
And in your search for detail in life here in London, what's currently inspiring you on your walks through the streets?
Now we have to go with the Zimmer frame.
Do you have a hand free to pick things up?
I mean, what we like very much going to dinner every night, no? Because we go to the same restaurant, Mangal One, every night, and we see all the young people and everybody on the way up, and don't you think?
I'm not sure whether it's inspiring. The people at the next table last night shouted, "There's no way she's going to get the flat." Oh, what a nightmare. What a story that must be. That wouldn't be very inspiring.
Going back quickly to the work here, you like people to see their own light in their life when they look at your work. What is the light that you see in your work and in life?
I think it is an expression of life, of living, and how wonderful that it is to be alive and have friends and get drunk sometimes.
We want to add to the elaboration of life. Life is more elaborate now than it was when we were babies in the 40s. The world has never been a bigger success story, and we like in our small way to contribute to that. These pictures are contributing to that.
Monocle's Tom Webb speaking with Gilbert and George there. Death, Hope, Life, Fear will remain on view until February 2026 and will complement Gilbert and George 21st Century Pictures at London's Hayward Gallery, which will open in October 2025. Now, Australia's Red Centre, the name used for the centre of the country, looks like nowhere else on Earth. Here, the striking red of the soil and rocks is offset by the bright blue of clear skies and golden sunshine. Here and all over Australia, art centres produce Aboriginal art and the occasional art star. Although the artwork has always been popular, in recent years there's been more attention than ever on Indigenous art made in Australia. Amma Rose Abrams visited the Northern Territory to find out more.
The contemporary art world has often spotlighted artists from Indigenous cultures from different regions in recent years. But since Aboriginal Australian artist Archie Moore was awarded the Golden Lion at the last Venice Biennale in 2024, there has been a specific interest in Indigenous art from Australia. In 2025, what does that look like? From artists in urban centres like Sydney and Melbourne to remote art centres in rural areas, Indigenous Australian art is making an international impact. Their art is being shown all over the world at commercial art galleries, biennials, fairs and exhibitions, including Emily Cam Kungware that opened at Tate Modern to critical acclaim. But what is an art centre? Art centres are government-subsidised community organisations where Indigenous artists make art collectively. Artists are paid a wage, and the community receives 60% of the profits of the work sold. This dates back to the late 1940s when the first art centres were founded. Here, artists make traditional Aboriginal art that retells stories that have been passed down through many generations, some dating back over 40,000 years. These stories have custodians, and these roles are also passed down. Not all art centres produce traditional art. Bindi Art Centre, based in Alice Springs and Parkway, works with disabled artists who are based in the city and produces all kinds of artwork.
Bindi Enterprises is a supported employment social enterprise for adults with a disability, and it was founded by parents of adults with a disability nearly 50 years ago in the 70s. And at the time, those people were being considered to be sent away to institutions for mental health support, but the parents wanted to keep the children here, and so they set up Bindi as a place for employment. And so today out of Bindi we have multiple programs running. We have an Aboriginal art studio, Bindi Mother and Daughter Artists. We have a digital arts program, and we have a corporate contracts department, and we have had a timber and metal workshop as well.
Also located in Alice Springs is the Many Hands Art Centre, run by the descendants of the watercolourist Albert Namatjira.
My name is Marissa Ma. I'm the acting co-manager here at Ilchinjara. The Art Centre was founded back in 2004. So within that time, it has changed a lot. So it wasn't just watercolour landscapes here. They did a lot of acrylics, and there was a lot of family groups. But since then, in about 2013, we sort of moved back to this art centre, and then 2016 we incorporated to make it Many Hands Ilchinjara. And then the artists who are the directors and board members wanted to make it just a watercolour landscape art centre. So we do have family and artists at Hermannsburg, but this was set up for the artists that are living here in Alice Springs. So it was easier for them to come here to paint and to do works and things like that. And sometimes we'd go to Hermannsburg as well. So I think it's just a way of, continuing that legacy. We have a number of shows coming up, so it's been very busy. Artists have been working very hard with the glassworks that we've been collaborating with Canberra Glassworks. So those works are going to be exhibited at the National Gallery at the end of this year, and that is supporting, Albert Namatjira, his house and that, and including all the families. And we also got Jam Factory, which is in Adelaide, and those works are going to be displayed as well. So there's a lot for us.
Parjima, an art and music festival that takes place on the edge of town, is now in its 10th year. Here is spokesperson and curator Rhoda Roberts.
There's great gratitude to have the opportunity to have a festival like this that honours Aranda people of this land, but also as they are the host nation, and we're inviting neighbouring clans and groups in to showcase initially light installations. Everyone loves light festivals, and to take such ancient art from the central western desert regions of Australia and to adapt them and give them relevance in the 21st century is extraordinary. But the most thing about this festival, it's really needed at the time we sit in Australia, because it gives a voice to our people. Through the lights, people are hearing the old stories, but also they're seeing new expressions of work. There's music, there's talks, there's workshops, so they're getting a much more holistic view of our world, and it's just the one-on-one and connecting. A lot of people have assumptions about Aboriginal people, and we're very diverse. We're very aware that we have to make sure we're doing the right thing by our cultural authorities. Having said that, we're seeing some very contemporary work. If we think of Venice, the last Venice Biennale, that incredible work of Mr. Moore was extraordinary. Extraordinary. And to think that it was an Aboriginal artist from an urban environment that actually, because we're all connected, to win the Lion, the first time ever Australia has won that, says we are of a coming of age, that we're starting to listen. And if you look at his work, of course he's telling the story of the policies that almost destroyed us, but have also shaped us, and shaped someone like him, where he comes from a family where the story was always told, never forget who you are, and we're seeing it. So I'm so excited about the period we're in now, because we have a lot of artists who are very political, but they're painting the truth-telling. And maybe through the music, because universally that's a great language, through the art, and the way our demeanour of how we do that is shifting some Australians to understand who we are a little bit more.
Art by Indigenous Australian artists working along both traditional and contemporary lines is not only more present in international institutions and commercial exhibitions, but is also more deeply understood, as there are more Indigenous curators and academics working in institutions abroad. In 2025, there is a beautiful gallery dedicated to Aboriginal art at the new Nala Boodoo Gallery of New South Wales building, and the Indigenous flag flies on the Harbour Bridge, but there is a long way to go. In showing their art internationally, communities are hoping that global awareness of their culture, stories, history, and the beauty of their country will help build a better future. For Monocle in Alice Springs, Australia, I'm Amarose Abrams.
Now to Romania. Maria Sparcea is a contemporary artist who was born and raised in the northwestern city of Cluj, where he still lives today. Over the past 2 decades, he's become known for vivid, layered paintings that explore the social and psychological aftershocks of the Romanian Revolution and the ideological collisions that followed. This summer, he returned to the country's capital, Bucharest, with his first exhibition there in years. Monocle's Laura Kramer caught up with him in Revolution Square, the site of Ceausescu's final speech and a pivotal landmark in Romania's recent history, to talk about how the legacy of 1989 and his travels from LA to Tokyo continue to shape his work. He began by sharing the inspiration behind the new exhibition, titled New Tenant Sunshine Noir.
I've started like a very adventurous kind of a project where painting turned into an object, so it follows all these sort of steps from 2D and a half and eventually to 3D. And besides that, it's been very exciting to operate, with the sort of a new forms of expression, to follow, what the space dictates, in terms of all the assemblage and the lights effect, artificial light effect inside the hall. Because it is. I think it is an exhibition with 2 lives, a day life and a night life. Because of that.
Before we get into the rest of the exhibition, I definitely want to hear more about it. Let's talk about where this interview is happening. We are in the Revolution Square. This was a moment where Ceausescu gave his last speech on the balcony behind me after realizing that he was not speaking to supporters, but rather people who were revolutionaries and wanted him out. He fled in a helicopter and then was killed a few years later. So it's a big inspiration for you, though, right, in your work. For those who aren't familiar with your work, how would you describe it?
It's been very inspirational because I'm a generation of 40 plus. So part of my life, my childhood was still under the communist regime, under the totalitarian kind of regime. So I've been experienced in a very personal way, me and, of course, my generation, my family, those days. So that really kind of helps to have like a sort of social political barometer, because it helps also in terms of a comparison, with what was coming next. So I'm probably feeling extremely lucky to have the childhood during the communist time, my adolescence and the teenage time living in the transitional kind of period in Romania, and reaching the sort of a maturity, where Romania is consistent part of the European community. Of course, the recent history of Romania has been kind of verbalized by many cultural kind of actors, from the movie, music, fine arts, artists, and obviously, the times we're living, the kind of a big brother that we're kind of being taking part of with the first time where revolution has been kind of on TV. Actually, it's something that you'll never forget. So as I said, it's like a sort of a strong emotional kind of a hook.
You've spent a lot of time in terms of the work that you have shown. It's been a lot of international expositions. You've shown in Japan, in Los Angeles a lot. Tell us about where people have seen your work and where you've been.
Luckily, I was able, to have this sort of freedom of moving, and I kind of developed a paternal kind of a relation with California, for many years back, because I've been kind of doing some homeworks before getting there. There were like some sort of elements and situations I was kind of researching, and probably one of the earlier stage it was the cultural migration, from Europe during the 20th century over to California, and I'm kind of referring to the modern Viennese and Viennese architects, who were building the modernist under the sun in LA and around Los Angeles. And then it was also like a symbolical kind of a trip I did, as my ancestors were kind of following the gold rush, from Transylvania over to the northern part of California. So I was kind of remaking like a sort of Ilf and Petrov sort of a journey, in the Californian desert, for a while. Understanding a bit the dynamic, of a big metropolis such as Los Angeles, with all the cultural diversity that you have there, it's been a kind of a good lesson for me, just to learn there in situ, actually.
And of course, Tokyo too,
Tokyo came as a sort of a beautiful surprise. I just came back from Tokyo and I'm mesmerized, It felt like a different planet for me, and I'm just kind of still processing, my experience there, which was amazing. Yeah.
As an artist, what do you take away from when you go to these other places? Because you are probably inspired by what you see, and how does it influence the work you do after?
There is a historical, stylistical, and story collector kind of a notebook that I'm mentally kind of keeping with me. So I think this could work as a sort of a triggers, for a new, kind of a thinking mechanism, the processing, after a trip like that, it really kind of dictates some decisions I'm having in the laboratory afterwards.
And so let's go back to the exhibition then. What's it called and how long is it on?
The exhibition is called The New Tenant, Sunshine Noir. So this sort of a subtitle, Sunshine Noir, it's a kind of a nihilistic, optimistic kind of a title, which is super contemporary, with the times we are living right now. And the first title, New Tenant, it's paraphrased from a theater piece, a sort of a monologue written by Eugene Ionesco, who's called The New Tenant. Is this a lonely guy, who is in the process of accumulating all his good in one room? This relation between the solitude and the living, with all the battle of the good and the bad thoughts, and then with all the kind of materialized kind of objects, which are kind of surrounding you and kind of sometimes suffocating you. It's been great, because it has been like a sort of a long germination for this project, because I've been kind of trained as a sort of a 2D artist, always kind of working on a bidimensional kind of a format, and now I was breaking all the norms of my practice, and I was kind of moving from the, as I was mentioning before, from the 2D to 3D, and then I was adding this sort of extra of a more scenic, theatrical element, you know, in the whole kind of a conversation. So it's a sort of an assemblage of unfinished works which kind of succeeded, you know, to mediate a kind of a dialogue between them in terms of materials that I'm working with, but also in terms of relation, you know.
And then what's next for you?
I'll probably kind of decide, you know, after a while. I mean, it's been a very intense sort of half year for me because, yeah, there were like a lot of things going on. So now, I mean, that kind of moment, you know, of calculating and recalibrating a bit, all the energies.
That was Maria Sparchea in conversation with Monocle's Laura Kramer. And that's all for this week. My thanks to Tom Webb, Amma Rose Abrams and Laura Kramer. Monocle on Culture is produced by Sophie Monaghan-Coombs and Steph Chungu, and Steph also edits the show. We'll be back at the same time next week, but until then, from me, Robert Bounds, thank you for tuning in.
What does culture say about the way we live and how we could live better? Join Monocle in Barcelona this September for our annual Quality of Life conference. From bold new voices in media, design and the arts to lively debates on diplomacy, design and urbanism, it's 3 days of fresh thinking and creative exchange. Find out more and book your seat at monocle.com/conference.